Welcome to the Catholic Dadcast by Rich Pintang, where we break down all things dad from a Catholic perspective. Now more than ever, we need dads to step up their game. Gentlemen, buckle up and get ready for battle. Brothers and sisters, welcome to the Catholic Dadcast. I am Rich Pintang, your host and founder, broadcasting from lovely Orange County, California. And today's episode is a beauty. We're talking about the sport of MMA. We're talking about fighting. We're talking about our Catholic faith. And today's guest is the owner of North Orange County Martial Arts, the co-president of Students for Life at Cal State Fullerton, and he is known as the Kicking Catholic. Welcome to the Catholic Dadcast, Mr. Cam Brewer. Welcome, brother.
Hello. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm very excited for talking with you and getting this whole conversation out.
Yeah, like I was saying before we started recording, You're a rarity, man. You're not that average dude out there, and but that's what I love. I think that's what I love about being able to hear from you, hear your views, and everything that you stand for. And I mean, just some of the things I just shared there are just tip of the iceberg, especially considering that you are at the tender age of
22.
And his life ahead of him.
Absolutely. Well, my goal, of course, is to make myself not superb or anything like that. I want everybody to kind of do as much as they can in their faith and to find their own way to help the church and their faith and to fall deeper in love with Jesus. So my goal through teaching martial arts and through instructing is to kind of foster that goal to make more people strive farther, strive better, and to work harder.
Yeah, there you go. And that's very selfless, because in most cases pride can creep in when you can be victorious, especially in a challenging sport like MMA. But for our listeners, you guys got to remember, as we go into deeper into Cam's story and some of the things that he stands for, he's not that average 22-year-old. And I think what I love about the story is that you're not, you're okay with walking in your shoes, because you are a creation of God, and you're in a state that really doesn't have the same beliefs that you and I have here in California. You're on a campus that doesn't, and you're, for the most part, being the light of Christ in a place that's pretty dark. So guys like you are so needed. And I mean, before we actually jump into why your love of MMA, I wanted you to share a little bit about the scholarship project that you have for the Students for Life at Cal State Fullerton. If you could kind of share it with us and the viewers about that project.
Absolutely. Well, the scholarship program we're working on, of course, Students for Life is an organization that we work on campus. We help pregnant and parenting students. We've petitioned the student government a few times, and we've gotten baby changing tables put into almost all the bathrooms on campus. We've really worked hard to kind of make the campus more inclusive for life and for children and for families. We've done a lot of work against the Senate bills that increase the abortions on campus. And right now we're working for scholarships for pregnant and parenting students. So we're raising money to help promote that pregnant and parenting students still achieving their goals, because overall the culture of death in the campus, and especially in California, is you have to sacrifice your children to get a good education. You have to sacrifice your children to work to get money. Okay, it's kind of just the sacrifices of Moloch once again, sacrificing for money and for the future. And that's what we're diametrically opposed to. We're trying to make sure that people can have both. They can have a family. They can still succeed in this world.
Yeah, and we know that's a lie, Cam, when it comes to the abortion industry and how they continue to feed that, so that they can fill their quotas. And the way we see it is that kind of lie has grown exponentially, accepted, and it's desensitized people from realizing the atrocities of what they're engaging in. And so knowing that you have that type of ability to give these students that are being challenged an outlet, I can't help but feel like there are going to be businesses and individuals that see so much value in that kind of program. So we'll make sure that we include that in the show notes so that anyone that we can tie into or work with or collaborate with to help promote that scholarship program, we'd certainly do that. And I want to say that when it comes to your love of fighting, you're basically fighting for them also, which is very commendable, because I can't say I think very highly of your generation, only because I think you guys were not really given a chance to really listen to the voice of reason, which is what we get from our faith and our scripture and everything that God has taught us, that we can really see the world through Jesus's eyes. And it's very encouraging for someone like myself to see someone like you get it at an early age, because sometimes it's ends up being too late and there's too many regrets. But somehow, some way, God has worked through your life and got your attention pretty quickly. Now, the love of the MMA, take us back, because there's a lot of us that are fans. Men love to see fighting and whatever type of fighting, but you got to tell us where that love came from.
Well, I guess it all kind of started with my lack of talent, I guess, with other sports. I was never much a fan of football. I couldn't catch or throw or kick for anything. So my dad was in the military, so we were kind of moving from base to base, never had a one spot. So I kind of got into mixed martial arts pretty organically. I started in karate, and then we moved duty stations a year later, and then I started something else, and then we moved again, and I started something else. And I got to about 5 years in of training, realizing that I've worked so hard. I spent my own money. I mowed lawns, doing all this work for getting into martial arts. And I can't compete at a national level for any of the 4 different martial arts I started. So I was like, well, I might as well mix them. So I have a little bit of my Kung Fu. I got a little bit of my karate. I have traditional kickboxing, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu. And I have organically blended it into mixed martial arts. And I have never looked back. I've enjoyed every step of it. I worked my way from 11. I first fought in the cage when I was 15 and a half, 16. I fought about 8 times all the way up in the youth league until I was 18. And then in the adult league, I fought 7 times. I'm 4-3. So I have absolutely enjoyed it. I have worked very hard to be where I'm at, and I wouldn't give it up for the world.
And it's very rare, Cam, to see somebody find their passion so early. And I say early because I've had my share of conversations with my daughter who's 15, and we're in the process of starting to talk a little bit more deeply about college and career paths and passions and stuff. But man, you must have just been like, I just love it. The smell of the ring, the gym, getting prepared, the workouts, the camaraderie with coaches. Were there a lot of coaches that were, very encouraging, that saw your passion and knew that you would be, very a different type of fighter?
Oh, absolutely. I've kind of gotten some really good big brother and also kind of father figures in martial arts, and it's that kind of like masculinity formation that is really lacking in the world, and I'm very thankful that I was brought into traditional kind of formation. I have to thank Chad Egan, who was my karate sensei, Robert Marquette, who is my jiu-jitsu professor, and then Ben Jones and Eric Paulson, who are my MMA coaches, who have developed me and really helped me to be the man that I am today.
Man, Cam, I feel like you just want to fight and you're giving props to everybody. That's great.
You gotta respect the fathers, the church fathers for faith, and you gotta respect the Gracies. You gotta respect the lineages.
Oh, for sure. No, for sure. And it's kind of like how they always say, don't forget where you came from. The view at the top of that mountain, it's awesome, but don't forget about the journey. And I think sometimes the stars are so bright up there that people forget. But I sense that humility, that humility from you. When it comes to the fighting, would you say that there was a certain need for it? Was there like a lot of bullying? A lot of people say, well, my old brothers used to beat up on me. I think that's where I get my chip on my shoulder. For a nephew that happened to be in town, he was saying that, his love of boxing was because he lived on the west side of Chicago and he looked different. So he had to learn how to box, for example. What was there anything like that contributed to it?
I would say, I did kind of find myself my fair amount of bullying growing up, and probably one of the reasons why I didn't like team sports was I'd fail at team sports and then they'd kind of be mean to me and bully me. So I was like, fine, I'll do my own thing. Martial arts is a very soul development and soul focused, and that's kind of why I switched to martial arts. So yeah, I would say it's a lot of passion, a lot of friendship that you make with martial arts, but also you're learning to you develop connections, but you also learn to put up your defenses against those that come to you, those that are come to mess with you.
I was hoping you were going to say it was Stephen Jones in third grade that wouldn't leave me alone, and I could never walk home, and he made me the fighter I am today.
Yeah, surprisingly, I don't have any Karate Kid story. I actually have never been in a fight before, a real fight before, so outside of the cage. So I think what I love about martial arts most of all is you hear that about pride. People who don't know and who are the ones that start things the most. So once you know what to do and how to handle yourself in a situation, absolutely how to avoid it and to take care of yourself and even the other people that would want to fight you.
So let's take it a step further. I mean, I sense a lot of preparation from that. But I think there are going to be viewers or listeners that think, how does that tie into, your deep faith in your Catholicism? So maybe kind of put that into perspective for those that are starting to question how those two are related.
Of course. I always like to start it out with wrestling is in the Bible and is taught to all angels and was probably done with Michael and Satan in the beginning times. If we go back to Genesis, Jacob was fighting the angel before he was renamed Israel, and they fought all night long. And Jacob fought the angel for the blessing, and the angel popped Jacob's hip out of socket, which I know a few moves that could possibly do that. So I'd say wrestling or martial arts is officially endorsed by God. But in the practical sense of martial arts and preparation for a fight, let's say, you see a lot of the same practices as in the early church and in preparation for fighting. You see fasting, abstinence, and sacrifice is the hallmarks of both piety in the faith and also preparation for fights. I would cut almost 35 pounds before fights sometimes, and that just takes complete dedication to reduce food intake along the lines of Lent, and going into sacrificing a lot of your food and reducing your gluttony. All of this is in service of God and to get you ready mentally and physically for the fight ahead, whether it be with Satan or the person on the other side of the cage. Abstinence, of course, not indulging yourself in worldly pleasures, of course, is a hallmark of both Catholicism and fighting. You can't be women make your knees weak in both. So you have to have a ordered appetite in regards to that, and also with smoking, drinking, all of that has to be, when you're old enough, well regulated and controlled. And then, of course, I'd say meditation and visualization. I don't like the idea of using meditation to supplement for prayer, because I feel like that gets into a lot of New Age stuff. But the idea of the visualization that we do in the Rosary of the mysteries, especially the sorrowful mysteries, putting yourself in that situation, understanding, is the same thing we do in coaching for fights. I make the kids run through the entire fight, every way to get out of it in their head, and that has a demonstrable effect on their performance in the cage. And I think it does so with visualizing the Rosary and other devotionals.
That's pretty deep, Cam, because the preparation part of it, that's one part, and the adding the visualization and them anticipating or being prepared for a counter move, for example, or what to do in certain situations. But it's different when they've practiced it and they've come up against it, so that when it does happen, it's already instinctual how to counter something. But the other part of it, Cam, is I almost feel like there's different aspects that I'm thinking that are very similar. For example, you talked about things that have to be very disciplined and self-control. And in today's world, especially in the environment you're on, in campus and in the college life, it's pleasure over everything. It's YOLO. You only live once, and if it feels good, it feels right. And you probably have seen it, and you're like, no, it's not like that.
Absolutely. The way that campus is, every campus these days, even Catholic campuses, are kind of a cesspool of degeneracy and hatred of God. And that's something that you can either grow from or you can be defeated by. And I think part of the reason that I am so strong in my faith, and why you should actually give Gen Z a chance, is we're coming into a completely antagonistic world. A couple, maybe 20, 30 years ago, the United States asked for being a Christian nation still. Nowadays, you have to choose what your path is, and you have to follow it to fruition. You have to fight the good fight till the end. You got to run the race till the end. And that is something that every Gen Zer is going to have to face on campus and in their schools. And fighting just makes you stronger. Fighting just makes you stronger unless you give up. So we're going to see a lot more people strong in their faith, working harder. And I want to be there helping them every step of the way.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. Like I said, having folks like yourself that are overtly okay with chin up, I know what I believe, this is what our Catholic faith teaches us. And even myself as a parent, especially with the audience being typically Catholic dads and or families, that doesn't just happen overnight. It's a lifestyle. It's 7 days a week and then some. It's everything that we teach and try to instill in the people we surround ourselves with. And in the college campus, for example, you look at the hookup culture. You look at it's okay. It was only one night. It was try this and it'll help with your studies. And it's always the temptation. And I would hope that those of us that are taking our Catholic faith seriously can see why we've gone so astray and keep pushing God away and are censoring him, and we have to fight for that. I mean, that's really what our liberties have come from with regards to being in the United States, where I know that I deal with a lot of international students, and they come from countries where you can't say anything. You can't say anything that's against what the government believes. And so I don't necessarily think that a lot of your peers, for example, understand how much freedom we have and the foundations of what we believe here. But when it comes to the faith, it seems to always be one of the most neglected things about our life. And I'm fortunate to see that you understand that the fight is every day, and there's a fight for for example, the spiritual battle and the attacks on the family. We're here to talk about being prepared for those kind of fights. Now, on your side, I mean, your Catholic faith also forms not only how you live, but also how you coach. I mean, you've got an awesome opportunity to affect the younger generation by your acts and the values that you portray. Because if you are a recipient of that coaching, so are they. So why do you think that your Catholic faith is plays a great role in how you coach and how you demonstrate, with your coaching style?
Well, that's an excellent question. I have to walk the tightrope between being overly in your face with Catholicism and still doing a good message. But like I said, the Catholic faith always crosses and intersects with everything I do in martial arts. So I have a lot of different faiths with families, and so I try to keep it as fundamental as possible when coaching. And generally, I do a lot of things that are in promotion. I pray before every match for my students. I keep ground rules always in my school. No cursing, no bad talk, no acting disordered. I always make people dress nicely. I make them tuck in their shirts, have their belt tied. I do inspections on all the kids, and all of that is important for keeping an ordered and regulated person. That is in reference, of course, to the faith, because if you keep yourself in order, you can keep your faith in order. I also try to do mat talks a lot. So talking about different things, not necessarily with the faith involved 100%, but especially with Lent in the situation that we're going through right now, is I bring them into conversations about self-control, and we have conversations. Hey, what do you do at home to work on your self-control? What do you how do you show it in the school? Are we going to hit hard when we shouldn't be? Are we going to go 100% with somebody who's brand new? No, we have to understand the situation, have self-control, and kind of take our passions out of it. I make them stand at attention, the whole military formation, and I make them keep themselves in control. And that, I think, is a really good way of bridging my Catholic faith with my coaching style.
That's cool. That's really cool. But to know that, you know, the kids are going to walk away and say, I remember this. I remember Coach telling me that. And I kind of thought that there would be some sort of pre-fight ritual that you have. Anything you want to share?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, I pray before every match, before we go out there. We pray for ourselves, pray for the opponents. I stretch the kids out. I wrap their hands. I get them into a calm manner. And then we do several hours of visualization and pads. And it takes a whole day for a fight. So I'm there the entire day with them, just calming them and getting them focused.
Now, after your fights, Cam, I mean, if I could put it in my perspective, in our Couples for Christ ministry, we have a basketball league where, you know, you can probably destroy me in the cage, but if we're on the basketball court, I would take you for sure. But the beauty of that particular basketball season is we pray at half court. It's tip. We beat each other up, you know, for 55 minutes. And then at the close of the game, before the next game, we're like hugging it out. And it's almost like there's a satisfaction of like, I play the game and I leave everything on the court because I play for the Lord. Do you have the same kind of gratification when it comes to win or lose after, you know, one of those matches?
Absolutely. In my own example, I have several times had conversations with my opponents before the fight, gone in there, done my work, had fun, and then I talked to them after. I encouraged them. I talked to them, and I'm still friends with many of my opponents, especially from my youth competition days. I've gone to meet them where they lived. I've trained at their gyms, and we have definitely developed a really special bond. And I've noticed that sometimes the kids, they see the stuff on TV, they see some of the fighters, the way they act, and I try to push them away from that, from the over showboaty, over angry fighting, and their fighting has gone up tremendously from when they come to the fight with a much better understanding and a much calmer attitude when they understand their opponent. And that's so I do it in that way to kind of promote.
Cam, I think one of the other questions that I was thinking of, you know, while you were sharing was when it comes to fighting, you know, do you see the correlation between like the choices in life? Because, for example, for me being competitive, I draw so many parallels to making life decisions, sacrifices, discipline. Are there certain things about like fighting that people don't know? Because as fans, we want to see 3 rounds, 5 rounds. That's what we want to see. But there have to be so many different aspects of fighting that we just don't understand unless you're in the game like you are.
Absolutely. The preparations are the hardest part of the fights. In my couple of my early fights, I kind of took fights on last minute notice because I was worried about going through an entire full camp, and of course those fights I lost. So that's a really good way of understanding. It's like, hey, you have to go through sometimes 10-week camp to get ready for fights, and it's grueling on the body. It is absolutely punishing, but if you make it at the end of it, you're just glad weight cutting's over. The fight is just fun. It's a cherry on top, but once you make weight, then that is a breath of fresh air. Absolutely. So a lot of different aspects.
That's kind of cool. Okay, so 10 weeks, fight's over, win or loss. What's the meal? What's the meal you go to?
Ooh, that's a good one. I have a couple times overengorged myself and have thrown up. So you got to be very careful with what you're eating. I went straight to Taco Bell after one of my fights, and it did not sit well. So no, don't go Taco Bell after fights. I do enjoy a nice steak. I love a nice steak after a fight. That's my victory meal, and I love green bean casserole. And asparagus. So that's my perfect meal after a fight.
Would you say you're pretty disciplined about your nutrition in general?
Yes, I try to be as much as possible. The nutrition part of it is really important because if you're not on your game, you're going to be that much more exhausted before the fight. You have to kind of keep yourself healthy. You got to keep yourself fit throughout the year. So that way, when you're ready to fight, you're not fighting the scale and the opponent at the same time.
Yeah, and I can kind of see that can be something that's overlooked because your metabolism's high, and I think I'll be fine. And I guess you can't really go through those 10 weeks without really being disciplined about that, and then finding out you got to cut X amount of weight, a couple of days before the weigh-in. But yeah, once you get those fundamentals down, then there's no other excuse because you know how to treat your body. I can't say after a fight I'm thinking of Taco Bell, but I did grow up on Taco Bell, and somehow I still grew to 6 foot, and that's like a giant for Filipinos. But let's before we start wrapping up, let's talk about your passion and having shared responsibilities as president of the Students for Life at Cal State Fullerton. Where do you think that came about? Your passion for the pro-life movement.
Well, my passion for the pro-life movement has kind of followed my faith journey as well. I started my own Students for Life in high school. We did it for a couple semesters, and I was homeschooled, so I did it with my homeschool group. And then I continued on after that. I was in my freshman orientation. I checked on Instagram who or what organizations were around. I searched for Students for Life. I messaged the person who started it, and she asked me, "Hey, do you want to be president or vice president?" And I was like, "Oh, I haven't even started school yet." And she's like, "It's okay. It's all right." So I kind of got roped into vice presidency before I even started on campus, and I've been working very hard ever since. I've always been planning the events. I've always been working with the money and all of that. And we've done a fantastic job so far. We've brought in a couple speakers on campus. We've changed a lot of minds. Hundreds of people have learned a lot more. We have actively gone toe to toe with Planned Parenthood clubs on campus, and we have come out for the better. We have done a great job, and I'm so proud of everything we've worked on so far. We've gotten a couple of hit pieces in the newspaper on us. Like I got called a member of the Fourth Reich or something like that.
Oh my gosh!
For my bringing on our president, Christina Hawkins, for an event. So it's definitely tough on campus, but if you got a good group of friends around you, you don't even feel it.
And then on top of that, Cam, you realize that maybe that was just God's way of saying, we need you here, and, praise God that you were brave enough to say yes, because in most cases, a lot of times that fear and that doubt seeps in, but who else is going to speak up for those babies? And who else is going to show, these moms and these couples that there's other ways around it, and there's so much beauty in parenting, and that respecting life is probably one of the greatest things we can address in today's day and age. So I applaud you guys, because it does take bravery, and that's exactly what I think the opposition wants. Is they want to instill that, we say that, that we get kind of pointed at as, you're not tolerant, and you're telling me what to do, but I would think I'm speaking for the ones that can't be spoken for, and I'm sure that that's the way you guys see it. And I love the fact that you guys are doing that, and that you understand that the battle is, it's a long road ahead. So I applaud you guys, and I hope that there's that the growth of the not only the movement, but what you guys do, especially here, on campus. It's kind of scary to think that how bad things have gotten, but it's even more reason for us to fight even more. You see how I added that fight in there?
There we go. Yeah, absolutely. I love it. I love it. It's got to be a battle. It's Psalms 144, right? Blessed be the Lord, my rock, who trains my hands for war, my fingers for battle. We gotta fight for what we believe in. This actually reminds me of one quick story. You never know who's listening. I was in my freshman semester on college, psychology, of course, one of the ickier classes for a Catholic, and I was repeatedly kind of mocked by the professor. He would call me the resident Catholic in my classes. And one time I was kind of sitting and helping out the Students for Life Club, and somebody from the class actually came in and came to my stand where I was talking to people, and he recognized me, and he said, "Oh, you're that guy who always argues with the professor." I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." And he's like, "I've been thinking about getting baptized for a while now, and I was wondering if you could kind of lead me and help me with the process." And so a couple of years later, he's a really good friend of mine. He became one of the treasurers for Students for Life, and he's fully baptized in the Catholic Church now. So and I'm his godfather. So yeah, you never know who's listening, and the harshest professors, are sometimes a way to show your stuff. Get in there and fight.
It's okay. It's okay to disagree.
Exactly.
And I think one of the hardest things that I struggle with is remaining in a state of grace when addressing my point of views without feeling like I'm, Bible thumping, but it really does say in the spiritual works of mercy that you have to instruct the ignorant, and that's part of evangelizing, what I call evangelizing. But that's my thing, but the whole point, Cam, is if it wasn't so dark, we probably wouldn't realize how important our voices are. So I would give you knuckles, but you'd probably destroy my hand.
You're gonna break my ankles on the court. We have our own grounds of battle.
You're correct. Everyone's got a different platform, and we'll wrap up the episode with a Bible verse that I think is very fitting, and that is, don't be afraid or discouraged by this great army, because the battle isn't yours. It belongs to God. And it's 2 Chronicles 20:15. So, Cam, God bless you, brother. I think very highly of you, and I want to say that this will not be the last time I work with you guys. I'm going to do anything and everything I can to support you guys, bring you resources, and try to support you in what you do. And if anyone's obviously interested in looking at the classes at North Orange County Martial Arts, mention the Catholic Dadcast, and you get a free signature from Cam Brewer.
There we go.
But hey, brother, I like I said, I appreciate you guys, and you know, I'm glad that we were able to connect. And brothers and sisters, we appreciate your support. Remember, we need you guys to share our episodes with family, friends, loved ones, and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever it is that you happen to hear or see this particular episode. But this episode is ended. Go in peace to love and serve the Lord. Thanks be to God.